and welcome everyone to the April edition of our Facebook Live series. My name is Heath Einstein. I'm Dean of Admission at Texas Christian University, and we are thrilled that you have joined us this evening or this morning or this night, depending on where in the world you are coming from. And it's so great to have people from all over. I see Amelia from Colorado Springs and Mary from nearby in Bedford. And we've got Liz joining us from Connecticut and New York. I don't know how you can be in two places at one time, but somewhere in the tri-state area, Liz is joining us. Emily down in Montgomery, Alabama. And Jenna all the way from Paris. And I don't know if that's Paris, Texas or Paris, France, but I'm going to pretend it's Paris, France, because that's just so lovely, especially at this time of year. So welcome, everybody. This session this evening is on a very special topic, our fantastic, our vaunted, our just famous first-year experience programs. And joining me this evening is the lovely, the talented, the brilliant Dr. Erin Wilson. Hey, Erin, how are you?
Oh my goodness, that welcome. I'm going to have to come more often. I'm good, Heath. Thanks for having me today.
Of course. Well, anytime we do an admission program, we start with a land acknowledgement because the space where we are is very special. And so we respectfully acknowledge all Native American peoples who have lived on this land since time immemorial. TCU especially acknowledges and pays respect to the Wichita and affiliated tribes upon whose ancestral historical homeland our university is located. And for those who have been to campus, perhaps you've seen it. If you haven't been to campus, I would encourage you to see it. There's a beautiful monument between Reed Hall and Jarvis Hall that commemorates the Wichita and affiliated tribes, and we are most grateful. We're going to talk about a lot of things TCU tonight. The focus is going to be on our first-year experience programs, most notably orientation and frog camp, but there are other aspects of the first-year experience that we can talk about. And of course, anytime we gather together on these Facebook Live events, we could end up talking about anything related to the world of TCU admissions or college admissions or TCU. So really whatever is on your mind will eventually be fair game, but we do want to focus on that. Today's a pretty special day, as it turns out, with respect to these programs, because about 2 hours ago, we opened up registration for orientation and for frog camp. And so if you are an admitted student or the parent of an admitted student, you probably have experienced this already. That is, if you have submitted your enrollment deposit, and that is a requirement in order to register. So you have to have deposited to demonstrate that you intend to enroll at TCU this upcoming fall. But there may be other questions from other people. And we know that in the audience, we also have high school juniors and current college students who are thinking about transferring. So we hope that our conversation tonight really touches on the full range of those first-year experience programs and how they might pertain to you. So, Dr. Wilson, just wanted to throw it your way to see if there's anything that you wanted to start us off with, or just say hello, and that's okay too. And then I'll make a few remarks, and then we can throw it open for questions. So, what say you?
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely. Well, as he said, my name is Dr. Erin Wilson, and I'm the Senior Director of First Year Experiences here at TCU. So yes, you heard that right. Here at TCU, we care so much, not just about every student, but we really want to make sure that your first year experience is something that's incredibly special and transitions you from high school to college, so that we make sure that you get through here successfully. So we really have honed in and focused on creating programming around exclusively first-year students. We have lots of programming for everybody else, but tonight we're talking about you, whether you're coming or will soon be coming, right, Heath? Yep. We know that we're able to do that. So it is our job to make sure that we have programs, whether it's leadership or frog camp, which is our extended orientation camp, or orientation itself. We also have service distance learning, and so many different components that we make sure we cater and curate experiences for just our first year students. In that, we, like I said before, make sure that you are able to transition smoothly, or as smoothly as possible, into your new horned frog community. And that's what my job is. It's so much fun. Students always keep me on my toes, but I absolutely love all of our students. But first year students have a special place in my heart.
Well, and I think there's a really good chance that if you come to TCU, you are going to have some experience with Dr. Wilson, and that is a great thing because she's incredible. She is lit. She is fire. She is. I'm a child of the '80s in California, so I say rad. My kids think I'm crazy. I think you're rad, Erin.
Thank you.
Like whatever it is that is your term du jour, that is what Dr. Wilson is. Okay, some people want to know about like what makes TCU so special, and it is really hard to sort of pin down. One of the statistics that I always throw out, and I know Chancellor Bashini always talks about, is our retention rate. We have a 91% retention rate at TCU. And when people ask why that is, I'm always quick to answer that I think we do a really good job of bringing students into the fold right from the get-go. It starts at orientation. And our orientation programs are great, right, Dr. Wilson? So can you tell folks a little bit about what's going to happen during those sessions?
For sure. So orientation is all about you. We're going to have sessions that walk you through so many pieces, right? If you still have questions about financial aid, if you need to understand more about housing and selecting where you want to kind of live for your first year, we answer just about anything, how to get connected. And then for me, and one of the things that students really enjoy is they get to be led by orientation leaders who are students or students just like them who have done all the things and are there to share all their knowledge, wisdom, and tricks. We even make sure that parents have special sessions during orientation so that you're able, I always like to tell parents, you turn into a mentor, right? A coach once they hit our campus. And so we set you up for the best possible coaching situation that you can have. So orientation, we make sure that you leave with your class schedule and kind of knowing what that looks like. It's really just your first introduction to campus. And we just make sure you know so much when you leave, but also you're connected with another group. And that's one of your first spaces that you get to meet people. A lot of people meet their new roommate. They just kind of connect with each other and then later select that person. But it's one of the first stops of many that we create to make sure that you find your people and really jump into the community here.
And you made an interesting point earlier, Dr. Wilson, about if you still have questions about something like residence halls. And a student might be asking, well, wait a second, I'm filling out my housing questionnaire in early May, but then I come to orientation later. But of course, remember, orientations occur throughout the summer. They actually start in May, and it overlaps when you fill out your housing questionnaire. So it is possible to attend orientation even before you're filling out the questionnaire, and certainly before you do your housing selection, right?
For sure. Absolutely. That happens a lot, right? Because we want to make sure that you have options. We know summer is busy and that you're cramming in all those last opportunities to have fun during the summer. So yes, super flexible for you to be able to choose. While you must attend orientation, we do everything we can to make it as flexible as possible so you're able to come to the one that you want.
There are 12 first-year orientations from which to choose, and there are 3 transfer orientations from which to choose. And don't fret because you will get into orientation. We require it of all of our incoming first-year students. And so it's possible that you went onto the site today to register right at 4 o'clock, and you can imagine it's not all that different from getting a hot concert ticket. You might not get your very first choice even right away, but the portal will pop up a message that encourages you to select a different session if you don't get your first session. So yes, we try to be as flexible as possible, but know that, of course, A lot of people are trying to register. And so we do encourage people to exhibit some level of patience here. We will get to everybody. Everyone will come to orientation. Of that, you can be confident. Okay, so everyone comes to orientation. Not everybody comes to Frog Camp, but most people sure do. In fact, 81% of our first year students will go to a Frog Camp. Can you tell us a little bit about Frog Camp? What is it and why should a student go?
Absolutely. So we talked about orientation kind of being your first introduction of what's happening here. And then Frog Camp really takes it to the next level. Frog Camp is all about building community. You get a small group. You get to hang out with faculty and staff who are just as excited that you're here as well, and they want to create connections with you. During that time, you learn about TCU traditions. We walk through things again that you want to know. You get to ask tons of questions to other facilitators who are students currently at TCU, upper class students, and so it's a really great way to, again, build another community. As you can see, they build upon each other, right? You've got a small group when you're at orientation. So that's at least 10 people that you know coming through the gate, right? You go to Frog Camp, and depending on the size of your group, some are 10, some are a little bit smaller, some are a little bit larger. But you've got all those people that you know, plus the upper class students. So you've now created an entire network of people, and you've only gone to you hadn't even started yet. So we create lots of opportunities for you to do that. Frog Camp is so much fun, and I love that it's our extended orientation. So you've got even more time to build your squad goals, right?
There you go. I love it. Now, you probably don't know this, Dr. Wilson, but we have started a tradition here on our monthly Facebook Lives of telling some dad jokes. So I'm going to pause here for a dad joke. I'll ask it to you since you're on screen with me. We'll see if you can get this one. This is in honor of our friend Jenna, who joined us from Paris. And the question is, what do a tick and the Eiffel Tower have in common? What do a tick and the Eiffel Tower have in common?
A tick and the Eiffel Tower have in common. That was hard.
Remember where Jenna joined us from?
Let's see. We know Paris. But like, they don't teach you that during your doctoral program, Heath.
I know. Sorry, Dr. Wilson. Okay, the answer is they're both Paris sites. A tick and the Eiffel Tower are both Paris sites. I thought you would appreciate that.
I should have gotten that. That was chef's kiss. I loved it.
Thank you. Okay, really, and shout out to Jenna again. You were the inspiration for that one. Okay, let's jump back into it. We did speak about housing before, and just this will be a little tease because next month in our May session we're going to be talking about housing. 95% of first-year students live on campus, and we require we have a 2-year residency requirement. Those 5% of cases where students live off or don't live on campus their first year, that's those students are given dispensation for a variety of reasons, typically because they live locally. But for the most part, everybody is living on campus, and that is a huge part of building the community at TCU. And I'm wondering, Dr. Wilson, if you can talk about the sense of community here, because that very much flows into the first year experience, right?
Absolutely. To me, that's one of the most magical pieces. Besides TCU is beautiful. We have amazing teachers here and staff who truly love TCU. One of the most amazing pieces is the community. From the time you step on campus, you see people waving and laughing and speaking with each other. You just feel at home. I've had many students who just said, I did my tour and I just felt like this was home. And we do everything to kind of make sure that that's the piece that you feel. There's other connection points that we have, whether it's in the classroom with you taking a first year experience class, or just in sports, in just so many different areas. We just really believe in community. In addition to that, we have some really great traditions, from the tree lighting where everyone brings their family and different pieces like that, to family weekend to make sure that families also feel included in the excitement of first year and all of the other times that you're here. TCU just it's a community, and it goes beyond just the TCU area. One of the things that makes me so happy, and I always tell this story, but when I first came to TCU, I had just done a presentation and I had on purple, and I ran to grab something out of the grocery store. I'm in the freezer aisle, and a guy comes up to me and goes, "Go Frogs!" Now, before I chopped him in the throat, I realized that he was just excited that I was connected with TCU. And that's what you feel, not just on campus, but anywhere you go in Fort Worth. And that to me makes it magical that even the folks of Fort Worth love us, but we also make sure that students know that they have to make sure that we make sure Fort Worth knows how much we love them back.
I love that story. That's absolutely hilarious and not at all surprising, right? if you know the community. One final thing about housing, and I'm not a huge fan of rankings, except for when they make us look good. And the Princeton Review says that we have the number 4 residence halls in the country.
Yes.
And if you spend any bit of time in the residence halls, I think you will find that to be a fairly accurate assessment. Okay, Dr. Wilson. We've already been talking far too long without even getting to the questions. So let's move right into those. And we have a bunch that have been submitted. And please continue to submit questions throughout the hour. We're going to go as long as we can to answer as many questions as possible. But there were a couple of questions that came through on Instagram because we posed the question ahead of time. If anyone has questions for us, they could let us know in advance. And there were 2 that were very similar that I want to start with, both having to do with parent involvement at our orientation and frog camps. So the real Chrissy Hartley asks, do parents typically attend orientation? And Emily Daniel Leff asks, do parents stay with us at the hotel during frog camp? So Emily, I think, is a student asking, would her parents stay? So a little bit of different, there are probably different answers there. Do parents participate in orientation? Do parents participate in frog camp? What would you say to those?
I love those questions. So the first one is that absolutely parents are welcome at orientation. It's up to you completely, but parents are absolutely welcome. I believe that we are now back to 2 guests. So you can bring 2 guests that you would like to up to 2 guests that you would like to accompany you to orientation. So we understand that this is a new experience and you may not want to do it alone, but even folks, if you don't have 1 or 2 people that you want to come with you, we'll still make sure that you don't feel like you're alone during your orientation experience. There's plenty of people here to make sure that you have what you need during that time. So the question about frog camp is no, your parents will not be staying with you during frog camp. Right. Remember, we want our parents to move and to transition into that coach role. And so during frog camp, you won't be staying with your parents. It depends on what frog camp you go to. I didn't speak about that before, but we have some frog camps that are out of state. We have other frog camps that are in Fort Worth that are dedicated to making sure that you get to know the city. We have other frog camps that give you kind of a summer camp feel, which is one that's challenged. That scares me a little bit. I am not outdoorsy, but we've got people for that.
You don't do the grimy games?
That I'm not that outdoorsy, Heath. I don't know. I knew that was hard for you to ascertain, so I wanted to make sure.
You and me both.
We have travel camps like this year. I'm gonna shout out Becky Brokaw because I saw that she's from Anchorage, Alaska, and we're actually taking a group of students for their frog camp experience to Anchorage. We've got experiences where you don't even know where you're gonna go before you get there, called mystery. So whatever the case is, we really want it to be a time where you connect with other students. And so while we love our parents, frog camp is a no, orientation is a big old yes.
Absolutely. I do want to make one note, and that is that for guests only, not the students, but for the guests at orientation, there is a $25 overnight fee.
Yes.
But definitely everyone is welcome. The other thing I wanted to note about frog camps, and I'm so glad that you brought this up, Dr. Wilson, that we have varying locations, is that well, gosh, maybe 5 years ago now or more, the university said, we think frog camp is so important that we do not want cost to be a barrier for students to attend. So for our Texas frog camps, there is no fee for students. And this is a tremendous investment by the university, but we just think it's that important in helping students to build community here at TCU. And what you will find very frequently is that students will graduate from TCU saying the best friends they made at the university are those they made at frog camp or at orientation. The network begins to be developed early on, and those bonds are strong and they last a long time. So that is really one of the primary reasons why we do that.
Absolutely, Heath. One of my favorite things is to run into people who were my campers at Frog Camp and see them together. I just had a pair of guys that are graduating this year, and they became roommates for for the entire time they were here, and it was literally because they met at Frog Camp. So it is an opportunity you don't want to miss. If you get the chance to sign up for whichever one you want, you definitely want to go to Frog Camp.
And I can speak from that staff perspective, having worked in those small groups in the past. It is really neat to see how students evolve over their 4 years at TCU and then beyond. I have students of mine, and this will tell you how long I've been at TCU, who are married now. And these are my students who were at like my little frog camp babies. And it's so great to see. So yes, it's great. I want to ask a question, not me. I'd like to pose a question to you that was asked by Mia Mocha on Instagram. And it's such an important question. Is it hard meeting new people and having friends? We talk about, this is great and everyone's going to make their lifelong friends and you're going to, but that doesn't necessarily happen instantaneously for everybody. So can you talk about how the relationships between students develop and how your programs really try to create that experience?
For sure. So you're absolutely right, Heath. While some people meet their lifelong friends, the people who are in their weddings, and sometimes they now graduate students together, we do have some people that it takes a little longer for you to create those meaningful connections. But we do everything we can to make sure you have opportunities to do it. We here at TCU have over 300 student organizations that you're able to join and meet new people. We have other opportunities in the classroom, and I recommend every student take university life studies. I'm one of the instructors. Heath, have you ever taught university life studies?
I have at a different institution, but not at TCU.
We need to get you in the classroom. Your students would love you, but you have the opportunity to meet a classroom full of students that are learning the university together. We have leadership opportunities, tons here on campus. Whether you are deciding to welcome new students to campus or join Student Government Association through some things like Frog Aids, there are so many ways to get to know people on campus. We even have our Intercultural Center where they have amazing programming to help you get connected. And so there are just so many opportunities for you to get to know other students. And then the opportunities are there, but I talk to a lot of students about the opportunities being there and you have to take them, okay? So the good news is most of the people, I would say 99.999% of the people that you're gonna meet here on campus, if you say hi, they'll say hi back, right? And so there's there's two pieces to that, right? We make sure you have all the opportunities you need to connect with people, but then we also try to make sure that you have the tools you need to gain the confidence to walk up and make those connections.
Love it. Love it. Love it. You're absolutely right. TCU, it has got to be the friendliest campus in America. And I've been to a lot of them, and there's nothing like our campus.
For sure.
Okay, Stephanie asks, if a student doesn't commit to TCU until May 1, which we know is the national candidate reply date, students have a full month left basically to make their decision. will there still be open spots for orientation and frog camp since registration is already opened?
That's a fantastic question. I always expect that one to come, right? I was ready for you in that question. So the answer is orientation, yes. We make sure that there's a space for everyone at orientation. When you're ready to sign up, we'll be here, right? For orientation for the most part, because you're required to go. For frog camp, their spaces fill up really quickly for the folks who were hopping on there today at 4 p.m. Central Time, right? You know how quickly those spaces moved. But more likely than not, we will have some spaces that are still left at probably our local Texas camps. So feel free to just hop on online, take a look. And if you have any questions, you can always look at the website that we provided a little bit earlier for Frog Camp and get connected with us, and we can answer questions in the future.
That's great. Okay, so Steph asks a really interesting question, and it sort of piggybacks on what we were talking about before about parents staying at orientation, because on the registration form, it asks if the guest wants to stay in the residence hall or not. What would your recommendation be? Do you have a recommendation? Is it better to stay and get the experience of being in a residence hall that would sort of mirror what your student will have, or is it better to just stay in a hotel, or what would you suggest?
I love that you asked that question. I think it's a personal choice, right? I think back to when I went to orientation. That was not that long ago at all, as you can tell, right? But my parents stayed with me, and for them, it was a fun experience for them to relive their residence hall like days, right? For some parents, it's more comfortable for you to be in a hotel, especially if you decide to stay a little longer than when orientation dates are, and make a weekend of it. Fort Worth is a fun place to visit, and so some people just make it an experience. So I don't think there's one that's better than the other. You also want to think a little bit about price point. Obviously, the hotel is going to cost you a little more to come to orientation, and then I think, like you referenced to before, it's $25, right, in order to make that reservation to stay in the residence hall. So I hope that helped you make your decision about what's best for you, but it really just comes down to personal preference.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I don't know if you know the answer to this off the top of your head, but maybe even if you could approximate, because okay. Jinx asks about how many students will be in a frog camp. And we know that the size of the small group might be the same from camp to camp, but the size of the camp itself could vary greatly. So do you have those numbers? I hate to put you on the spot that way, but maybe you know.
That's okay. I love being put. No, I don't love being put on the spot. For you, Heath, I will be on the spot. So Alpine is one of our camps where students go to Colorado to have fresh air and tons of fun in the mountains. I think we do about 100 students over the 2 camps that are able to go there. For our mystery camp, and then for Alaska, there's about 24 students who are able to go to that one. I think that's pretty correct. For our challenge A and B, there's about 300 to maybe 450 students that are able to go to that one. And then our CASA, which is here, really focused on Fort Worth. And then also All Stars, which is one that's a little sports focused. I love that aspect of that camp. I would say about 200, maybe 24 students are able to have spots at that camp. So don't quote me on that, but I think I'm pretty close. I'm willing to bet.
I'm not quoting you, but that's excellent. I love it. Okay. Let's see. Dr. Aaron Wilson said on this date, on this time.
Don't take screenshots, folks.
Okay. Peyton asks a really interesting question. I love this. If you're out-of-state roommate and you are going to the same orientation or frog camp, are you able to room together? So let's say a student has selected their roommate already. They know who they're going to live with. Can you also be roommates at orientation or frog camp? Do we allow that?
That's a fantastic question. So the answer is maybe, right? So we pull these the information about roommates and people who will end up in rooms together in many different ways. And so the answer is probably more likely than not you won't end up, but it's because we want you to have the opportunity to build, remember, squad goals, to build your network, to build your connections to people, so that when you come here, you don't just know that one person, right? You know multiple people, so you feel connected, you feel excited and confident as you're moving forward. So the short answer is probably not. It's not like it could never happen, but we like to make sure that you get connected with more than just the one person you know.
I love this. You got to make your network. That's your network makes your net worth. We can come up with some like great tagline here.
We need that on a shirt, Heath. Yeah. I like that.
Okay, good. We're riffing here. I like it. We're riff ramming is what we're doing.
Bazoo, man. Bazoo.
Yeah. Okay. So next we've got this is another great. God, y'all are asking such great questions. I love it. Janet asks, if parents are planning to attend orientation, when will the schedule be available that details the times of the parent activities? About how far in advance does that get set? I mean, I know that we're working on it right now. Do you have a sense of when that will be distributed?
So yes and no. So so often I know for sure the department is working really hard to get those things nailed down. So I would just keep checking the orientation website that was up on the screen a little while ago, and we may be able to get it back up there. But keep checking that space. It should be coming up soon. April is a super, super wild time for us, but especially since orientations start to happen in May, you should be seeing that information soon. Another piece is that don't worry. I mean, you can check the website, but I know for sure that we work to make sure that you get an email that has some of that information on it pretty soon. Students just signed up for orientation starting today. So as we see the orientations that are happening, we make sure to get information out to your student at this point. So that's kind of what the holdup has been, to make sure that people get signed up, and then we send information corresponding to their orientation.
I'm so glad you made that comment about April, because it's just about time for another dad joke. So here's my question. If April showers, see what I did there, April?
Okay.
If April showers bring May flowers, what do May flowers bring?
What do May flowers bring? Allergies?
No, Mayflowers bring pilgrims.
Oh my gosh. As soon as you said that, that popped into my head. That was so Thanksgiving-y. I love it.
I know. It's probably not the right time of year to ask that joke. I mean, to tell that joke. Okay. We'll save it. Okay. You can tell that at your Thanksgiving table. Okay. If let's see, Sonia asks, are there this is a classic question. I'm surprised it's taken us a half hour to get here. Are there a set number of classes for each orientation? This is like, I hear from so many students, I have to get to the first orientation or I'm never going to get my classes. And I bet you we'd find out that there isn't much of a correlation between graduation rate and orientation session. But let's answer that question directly. Can students who don't attend the first two orientations still get classes?
Yes, absolutely. That's what you're coming here for. So we have masterfully the folks who are working over in advising, which shout out to our advising folks that make sure to take care of you during orientation in that capacity. They make sure that we have enough classes that are spread out across the orientations for you to make sure that you get classes. Now, let me be honest with you. Let me move closer to the camera for this. Really look me in my eye. Your class schedule that you get may not be perfect, okay? You heard it here first. That was breaking news. There may be some 8 o'clocks that are in there, right? So be prepared to be flexible. You will get classes. You will get the classes that you need to move forward, but understand that there are other students that have already registered, but we do everything we can that whether you come to the very first orientation or to the very last orientation, that there will be classes for you to sign up for. Okay. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Have to underscore that point. Not everyone is going to be able to take their classes between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m.
Okay?
We know that everyone wants that. We get it. but that might not happen for you, and it's okay. We have awesome classes that happen before 10 a.m. and after 2 p.m. Just need to put that out there.
Absolutely.
Okay. Carol Scott asks, do the students stay on campus during orientation, which we know that they do?
Yep.
And then like, how does it work if the parents stay on campus? Do they stay separately from the students so they have their own experience? So can you talk about like how the parent and students connect during orientation, but also have their own programming?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So orientation, and we have some amazing folks at orientation. I got to shout out Jasmine and Emily, who work to make sure that you all have a fantastic opportunity, right? So there are pieces of orientation that both parent or family, whoever is with you, your VIPs. I love that somebody on campus says that, right? So I'm going to say it too. Your VIPs who come with you, we make sure that you have the opportunity to do several things together. And then there are some sessions that sometimes just students go to. There are some sessions that just parents go to. Some of the most strategic and best combinations of parent and family that I've seen is sometimes they spread out to hit more than one session. So they break up just organically themselves. But yes, you will have plenty of opportunities, whether it's dinner in the dining hall or just kind of getting back together to go over the things that you heard at orientation. There will be plenty of opportunities for you to kind of be back with your student or for you to be back with your VIP. So yeah, there's plenty of spaces. We do make sure that there's programming. So if you want to come and connect with people after orientation, you can still do that. And parents, you're free to kind of see some of the things around Fort Worth. Like I said, it's a really great place. And so yes, make sure that as the information comes out in your emails, that you kind of just take a peek at that schedule and make some choices based on your preferences.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you talk about what happens if a student is on a wait list for a camp? Angela's asking, because we know that there are students who are open to going to whatever camp they can get into. And there are some students who really, really want to go to a particular camp and they put themselves on a wait list. So how does that process work?
Absolutely. So if you were able to hop on one of the wait lists, if you were signing up today, what that means is that if someone changes where they want to go, which is very possible, to a space that has something open, if a student decides to no longer go to Frog Camp, if someone cancels, then we stay on top of the wait list and you will be contacted in a few weeks or as we see that the wait list has changed, we will specifically contact you to let you know that you've been moved from the wait list to that actual camp. So no stress. So if you don't hear from us, that means that you are still on the wait list. And I hate that that's the case. We have so many really great camps that everyone wants to go to all of them. And unfortunately, while we have space for everybody to go to a camp, we don't always have space for everyone to go to a camp like Alaska, right? So long story short, if you're on a wait list and we're able to bump you off of the wait list, we will reach out to you. That's our promise because we want every camp to be full to create the most opportunities for your student or students to make connections with people at Frog Camp.
Love it. It's great. Okay. I want to just take 1 second to pay homage to Darlene van Niekerk, who is joining us all the way from South Africa, which is awesome. It is 1:39 a.m. in South Africa. So thank you so much for being with us. And we cannot wait to see you for orientation and Frog Camp as well. So awesome that you're with us. Okay. Kelly asks, what time do students need to arrive for Frog Camp because they want to book flights? And I know that the time differs potentially on the camp that they're coming to, right?
For sure. You took the answer right out of my mouth, Heath, is that the times really differ. So this is my promise to you. If your student got signed up for a specific frog camp, which I'm sure that they did, you will be getting some information really, really soon about those times. Today was sign up, so we couldn't send it on the sign up day because we're all here making sure we man the phones and answer questions and do lives with Heath. But as soon as all of the things are signed up and we wrap up for today, in the next week or so, you should be getting some information about those sign up times. Okay.
Yep. And I know that for our Texas camps, I believe this is true. All of them start at 1 o'clock Central Time. It's the travel camps that the out-of-state camps that may be different. And it is the expectation, if you are coming to a frog camp, you stay for the entire frog camp. You have to be here for the beginning, stay till the end. That is as much for everybody else as it is for you. We want to have a complete experience for everybody, and you won't get as much out of it, nor will your peers if you're not there for its entirety. Okay. So that actually answers, there are a couple questions that have to do with that. Margaret asks, is there an academic advisor at orientation? So of course, that's a huge piece of orientation is class registration and so forth. So can you talk a little bit about that process?
For sure. So yes, you will get the opportunity to meet specifically with an academic advisor as you pick your classes. That is 100% what their job is to make sure that you get into the classes that kind of make sense for your academic plan. So yeah, the short answer literally is absolutely. That is what our advisors stay and make sure throughout the summer that they're at every one of the orientations to give you the best counsel possible when you're choosing your classes.
Awesome. Okay. So Brenna asks, when will specific locations for frog camps be made available? And I'm guessing, I could be wrong about this, because most of them, if you look on our website, they are known like where they're going to be in the city. I don't know if they mean like, if Brenna means like specific hotels or so and so forth. And then of course, mystery destination, you won't know till you get there, which is sort of and you know, Dr. Erin is so good because I will occasionally be like, okay, can you remind me where we're doing mystery again? And she's like, you can't get me. You can try, but you can't get me. So I am not important enough to ever know when mystery is going to be, or where it's going to be. I can tell you when it's going to be.
We do keep it on lockdown, Heath. It is very serious over here.
Oh, I bet isn't it true there are like maybe 4 people who know about it?
I wouldn't even say 4, to be honest with you. There's probably just about 3 of us that know mystery. So I promise I'm not going to tell anybody anything.
Oh, so you've already told me something, which is you are one of the people who knows. Okay.
They swear us to secrecy, Heath. Like we take an oath over here and everything.
I don't even know if Chancellor Bashini knows. I got to talk to that guy. Maybe he knows. Okay. So what about the other camps? About like the specifics? We might know what town it's in, but like when will they find out what hotel they're staying at, for example, or campsite?
So that one exactly is the same thing. So once you have signed up, which today was sign up, you will be getting some information really, really soon about specifics and schedules and even what to pack. We've been doing this for a long while. And so we know lots of the things that you may ask and you'll get some information about those. I think if you are just asking about ones that are not general or just figuring out what the camps are, again, our website has all of that information, pricing, all kind of things that you will need to kind of make some decisions as well as dates.
Absolutely. Okay. Saba asks, do international students have a separate orientation?
That's a really good question. We have some orientations that are closer to the beginning of school and have one that is specifically for international students. I do believe that if you would like to come to any of the orientations, you are more than welcome to do that. But we really make sure that we have some specific ones because we understand travel, right? It is hard to come and go. So we do everything we can to make sure that your one trip here to your new home and new community at at TCU is the only one that you have to take for that piece, but it's completely up to you. All students are welcome at every orientation, but we do make sure that we have one specifically to make travel and moving in easy for you.
Outstanding. Okay. Kelly Baez asks, and hello, Kelly. It's so good to see you on here. We just spoke a couple weeks ago. When should the health and immunization forms be filled out? And the answer there is, in order to complete your housing questionnaire, you have to have all of the information into the health center. So the immunization forms need to be filled out. You don't necessarily have to have that done today in order to register for orientation and frog camp, but you will need that in order to get housing at TCU. So that's going to be really important.
Heath, one thing that I wanted to point out while we were talking about forms, another one is if you have signed up for your frog camp, there are some forms that are in your specific account that you need to make sure that you sign. If you don't get those signed 2 weeks before camp, then some people from the wait list may hop up. So make sure that you're staying on top of all of the forms that are required to come and do all of the cool things.
Okay, that's excellent information. I've got a great question here from Krista that I bet a million people want to know the answer to, and that is, if there is a day between orientation and frog camp, you're planning to do these back to back, but there's a day when there's nothing going on. Are you allowed to stay in the residence hall that day?
Absolutely. So we know that would be really tough for you to get a hotel room to come and go to frog camp. So we do have 2 sessions that allow us to do that. I believe it's session 8 and session 11. Session 8 backs up to Casa A, and then session 11 of orientation backs up to Casa C. So to answer your question, absolutely. You'll be able to stay, and we'll even have some programming for you when you stay that extra day. So yeah, come on through. We got you taken care of.
I'm very impressed that you have all of these dates and sessions memorized, or if it's possible it's on a screen in front of you, but you're playing it off like you know it. Like, so super impressed there. Okay. Annabelle asks, so do you get to choose the times for your classes or when you're at orientation, or are you just signing up for the subject and then it's randomized? And I love this question because I think so often, Erin, because we live this every day, we assume that it's just sort of second nature to us. But for students who are coming through this for the first time, they've never done this before. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm going to try my hardest. I am not an advisor by any means. I give good advice, but I'm not an academic advisor. But from my understanding, the answer is probably a combination of the two, right? So we understand that there's a path and there are specific classes that you need to take in order to graduate as soon as you are ready to graduate, right? So when you come to orientation, there will be classes that we look at and go, you need, and then there may be specific times that are attached to those. You may get a little bit of choice to go, a 9 o'clock is available and it fits with this other piece. So it's really more about puzzle pieces and fitting them together perfectly to make sure you have a schedule than leaning on one instead of the other. Does that make sense at all? I hope that clarified that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and you're right. It's working the puzzle. It's working collaboratively with your advisor. Yep. It's looking at, if your goal is to graduate in 4 years with a degree in political science or psychology or English, these are the pieces that we're going to have to fit together during that time. Here's typically what happens for a student in the first semester. This is what we would recommend. And then you do select classes. When you're done, when you've gone through the registration process, you will have a class at a specific time. So you're not going to walk into TCU in the fall semester not knowing when your classes are going to be.
Absolutely not. Yeah. Yes, you'll know exactly what your schedule looks like so that you can start planning on when to go to classes when you get here for the semester.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, I'm just scrolling through. We've got so many good questions. We want to make sure that we get to everything. Okay, there are a lot of questions now that have to do a little bit more generally, like sort of zooming out away from the orientation and frog camp experience and just some. And because I know we've got a lot of students here who are wondering about, okay, I haven't been admitted to TCU yet. What's the process like for me? So I do want to mention, because we had a couple of students who asked questions about if they're on the wait list, what happens to them. And I don't mean wait list for Frog Camp and orientation, but wait list just to be admitted to TCU.
Yes.
We have a robust wait list because, like most colleges, we never know exactly who's going to accept our offer of admission. I am in the business of trying to guess the behavior of 17-year-olds, and that is a pretty dangerous place to be. Very tough. So at any moment, we could be over, we could be under, and that's why we have a wait list, because as we get closer to May 1, the national candidate reply date, we need to assess whether we're going to need to admit more students. As we sit here on the 6th of April, still a good 3.5 weeks away from that May 1 deadline, I would say the chances are that if we move to the wait list, we'll do so in a very limited way. And if we do that, it won't happen yet for another 1 to 2 weeks at least. But these things change very rapidly. It's a fluid situation. If we don't get any deposits tomorrow and the next day, I could be singing a completely different tune. So stay with us, stay tuned. If you want to come to TCU, but you haven't been admitted yet, then just remain on the wait list. You definitely need to think about the colleges where you have been admitted and where you, frankly, are likelier to enroll. But that doesn't mean you should give up hope entirely on TCU. And the other thing I want to mention to waitlisted students, and I have conversations at this time of year every day with students and parents who have students who are on the wait list, and that is transfer admission is always an option. And we welcome 450 transfer students each fall, another 150 transfer students each spring, and many of those students were initially waitlisted as first-year applicants, but remained gung-ho to be at TCU. We remained in their hearts, and so they started at other institutions, and then they reapplied to transfer to TCU. And so that is going to be an option for you. It may be no for now, but not necessarily no forever. So I definitely did want to make you aware of that. And if you are admitted off of the wait list at TCU, you will also come to orientation, and you can also come to Frog Camp. That is a definite. We want to make sure that you participate in our first year experience programs. There have been some other questions in the chat about majors and changing majors and how can you do that. In the portal, if and this is specifically for admitted students, they've already deposited and they want to try to change their major. In the portal, you can go in and make a request to change your major. It's not going to be a guarantee, because at this point in the cycle, we're not just looking at the total number of students who have deposited at TCU, but we're looking at the academic programs into which those students have deposited. And so it's going to be a decision that is based largely on space availability. So you may hear back from us that says, with a message that says you'll hear back, you will be notified within a few days or a couple of weeks when we can determine if we have space in those majors. I can tell you with certainty that there are some majors where we do not have any more space, and I don't think it's likely we're going to have any more space between now and May 1. And then there are other majors where we do, and that request will be granted pretty quickly. So that's the place to go. In the portal, on the right-hand column at the bottom, you're going to see major change request or something along those lines. You click that link, and you'll have some choices there. Okay, scrolling through to see if there are other questions. There was a question about sorority recruitment and move-in. Dr. Wilson, the question had to do with move-in day. Is it a different move-in day for students who are going through Panhellenic recruitment? And I know this is a little bit outside of your purview, so if you don't know the answer to that, that's okay. I do know that those students come a little bit earlier, but I didn't know if you had anything to add about that.
For sure. So I believe that is the case, if that makes sense. But I do know that those that students who decide to participate are also able, we make sure that they're able to participate in another thing that we have for first year students, which is Frogs First, which is when we have a special celebration for just you, and make sure that, again, you get to know another small group, some more upper class students in your very first weekend when you get here. So I know that those things are interwoven, if that makes sense, but I do believe that there is a move-in for that. Don't quote me on that one either. I'm in first year, but our housing folks do a very good job of making sure you get the info you need. So check those official TCU emails all the time.
Absolutely. And students who go through recruitment, of course, they would pick an orientation date and a frog camp that doesn't conflict. That's part of why we have all these different options, because we know that there are some competing interests, and we want students to be able to participate in everything that they want to.
Absolutely.
Yes. So yeah, thank you for pointing out Frogs First. That's a critical piece to getting students into the fold, culminating with the Chancellor's Assembly. And then we've got opening convocation at the beginning of the year. And there are all of these sort of rites of passage that occur. And if you participate in all of those things, you can't help but make these very strong connections. And I think that, as I talk to students and parents, I think sometimes there are students who are a little bit fearful because they're coming into a brand new environment. And what they often don't realize is that everybody is in that position. There is nobody who's coming to college for the first time at TCU who's already been to TCU for the first time. It's nobody's second time going through orientation at TCU. It's nobody's second time going through Frog Camp at TCU. So you're sort of all in the same boat. And I hope that that gives people some semblance of comfort and confidence coming into the process. Okay, so we're almost at time, and so I really just wanted to thank you for being with me tonight. The hour flew by, didn't it, Erin?
I was just literally about to say that. It flew by, man. Wow.
I know, we'll have to do it again sometime. I did want to share with everybody that, again, we're going to be doing our session next month, always the first Wednesday of every month. We're going to be doing it on housing. So we're very excited to talk about that. Because the housing questionnaire opens on May 1st, we figured that's a good time to do it. And I'm going to tell you this right now, if you're planning to come to TCU, just because it opens on May 1st does not mean you need to complete it on May 1st. You have until June 10th to complete that, which is why we want to have that conversation in early May so that any questions you have about housing can be answered. But also, it's not just for students who have committed to TCU. It's for anybody who's even thinking about TCU. We're going to talk about everything that has to do with housing. So we look forward to joining you there. We have lots of admission programs that occur virtually and on campus. So please make sure to check out our website for all of the visit opportunities. We want to see you. I also want to thank a couple of people who you don't currently see, but have been working feverishly behind the scenes. Rob Berline, Amy Peterson, and Liz Rainwater. They are awesome. They're with us every month, and they really make this thing go. So thanks to all of you. If you have any follow-up questions for us in the Office of Admission, you can always email us at frogmail at tcu.edu. That's frogmail at tcu.edu. You have that information on your screen. Erin, what's the email address for your office if people have questions that directly pertain to your world?
For sure. So if it's about Frog Camp, then you can email us at tcufrogcamp at tcu.edu, and we should be able to get anything. And then I believe that if you check the orientation website, they've got some stuff. But here we all communicate with each other to make sure that if it's a question for whoever, that we'll get it. So no worries, we'll get you taken care of, we promise. I cannot wait to see our new students when they come to Frog Camp and to Frogs First, all of those pieces. When you see me, say hi. I'll be the one with the big hair and the smile.
I love it. I'll be the one with no hair and the smile. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Always great to see you. I'll see you on campus probably tomorrow.
For sure.
Take it easy, everyone. Go